Hey guys, it's Eddie and today I am back with another movie review for you all. Now today's movie that I am reviewing has been requested of me by a very kind person on Tumblr, and I'm really glad that they suggested for this movie to watch because I've been absolutely dying to see it myself, and finally getting someone requesting it for me kind of pushed me to actually sit down and watch it. So today's movie that we'll be reviewing is none other than Gus Van Sant's My Own Private Idaho, starring River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves. Now, this film follows narcoleptic hustler Mike and his friend and sort of co-hustler Scott, kind of on a personal journey in which they attempt to find Mike's estranged mother, and they kind of originate from the same street gang, but the big difference is that Scott's family is actually incredibly wealthy. He's set to inherit a lot of money from his father on his 21st birthday, and he's sort of vowing to leave the street scene behind him, whereas Mike is kind of, his only real hope is that he's going to find his mother, and hopefully that'll make a difference in his life. So these two have different sort of conflicting backgrounds, but they go together on this sort of journey, and it's kind of sweet and adorable. But that really is the premise for this film. I won't say anything more than that, because obviously I always like for you guys to watch it kind of as a clean slate. I think it's unfair if I give too much of the movie away, but that is basically what the characters are set up for in this film. Now, I must admit, I'm not a huge Keanu Reeves fan. I think I've mentioned this in my Bram Stoker's Dracula review before now. I just find personally his acting kind of bland sometimes. I don't think he's the best actor in the world, but I have to say that I was really pleasantly surprised by his performance in this film as Scott. I thought he settled really well into his role, which underwent some really interesting character arcs, because there's obviously this personal confliction of eventually giving up the life that he's made for himself in order to sort of settle into the life that his family want for him. And you see obviously him sort of reform himself, you see that inner battle in him. And I thought that he also had some really great chemistry with River Phoenix, ranging from very sensitive, there were some really heartbreaking moments between them, and sometimes I think they didn't even have to speak to each other. It was kind of just like a look that evoked a really nice sort of feeling. But there were some very understated moments between them. But then they had some really cute kind of humorous moments that, you know, where they were breaking into sort of peals of laughter, and this usually occurred when they were still on the street scene together. And throughout all of these situations, particularly in the beginning of the film where they were sort of surrounded by other people, you still see their characters sort of gradually gravitating towards each other more and more. And we sort of understand why that is, especially from the character of Mike's point of view in one of my favourite scenes, which is the campfire scene. I'm sure that many people who have watched this will love this scene also. I won't give too much away, but a lot of it contains Mike confessing his feelings for Scott, and you don't really know the true sort of core of their friendship and their sort of chemistry with each other up until this point, particularly on the part of Mike, who is a very intriguing character. And the acting in this scene is so subtle, it's so understated, it's very sad and sort of tentative. You can see that Mike is struggling with himself to come out with the words that he truly means, and I think it's just perfect acting from River. It's just the perfect amount of sensitivity. His performance is incredibly nuanced throughout the film, but I think it really culminates in this particular scene, and I think it's just a really sort of intense, sensitive performance at its finest. I will say that I think although Keanu Reeves was great in this film, I thought he really held himself up in this movie. I think you cannot deny that this is ultimately River's film. Such an intense performance, and he went through sort of lilts of frustration and anger to meandering listlessly in sort of cinematic limbo. His character is sort of very he goes through periods of, you know, complete unknowing, complete drifting, and this sort of erupts into moments of real frustration for his character. And I think this sense of just not knowing where you're going in life and nothing is coming together for him, you can really see captured perfectly in River's performance, and it's just brilliant in every single way. I thought I was totally enamored with River's performance. His acting was just gorgeous, and you know, you could really see, bless his heart, that this was the start, I suppose, of something that could have gone on to be even more incredible. Because if River was amazing at that stage so early in his career, you know, what could have he gone on to create for cinema? It's a sad thought to, you know, come to mind, but it's true, I suppose. It's a real shame that he left this when he did, because if this performance is anything to go by, I think, you know, we missed out on so much. And I think it is one of his finest performances. It's just so intense, and the character of Mike is just so, I don't know, you grow to really care for him, and you grow to feel incredibly sympathetic with him, especially when there are glimmers of hope and these are just completely dashed in every way. And I think this is part of the brilliant creation of the story by Gus Van Sant. And I think moving on to him as the director, as well as a particularly daring subject matter, we also have a film that refrains from conforming completely to celluloid expectations. By that I mean, amidst these sort of standard still shots and nice picturesque cinematography, it's all very beautiful in this film, we do get moments of really quirky and artistic sort of bursts. They sort of appear out of nowhere, and it kind of keeps you on your toes. This doesn't feel like it's just a sort of normal bleak indie film. It's got an artistic edge to it, particularly in scenes like the magazine stand scene, which I thought was really clever, and also the sex scene tableaus. I thought they were really interesting. It's just, I think, Van Sant's way of presenting things and sort of kind of bog standard things in a way that we might not expect, and I really liked that from his direction, because it's set up in not a very artistic way, this film, but it's interspliced with little quirks that really are incredibly interesting and I think incredibly innovative and clever. So I really have to hand it to Gus Van Sant's fantastically original direction. I know that the story is a part sort of, I don't know, culmination of different stories. I think he borrowed the plotline for Scott's personal story from Shakespeare's Henry IV parts 1 and 2, if I'm correct, and you can definitely see that. But it's placed in the film in such a way that once you know that that is true, you're not like, oh well, he just borrowed this from something else. Like, it fits perfectly in the movie, and of course we've got Mike's fantastic character to sort of counterbalance this. So it's a really interesting film, and I kind of was blown away by it, and I didn't sort of realise how blown away by it I was until after I finished watching the film. I sort of realised how much it had affected me. Particularly, as I said, Mike's character, he's incredibly endearing, and you just really kind of want everything to go well for him. because it's set up in a way that his life is just not the best. He's constantly stuck in limbo, and everything in the film, when there is a chance of hope, it just comes crashing down. And yeah, I haven't really got anything else more to say about this film other than that it surprised me in ways I didn't expect. I kind of knew the premise of the film, but it took me down roads that I still didn't anticipate, and that's what I love about films, really. And I really love films that do that. I thought that Keanu Reeves held himself up really well in his role. I thought he had fantastic chemistry with the absolutely supreme River Phoenix, who was perfect and sensitive and intense and, you know, really full of energy in his role. I mean, he was a character with narcolepsy, but you could see this sort of fervent electricity beneath the surface when he was delivering his lines that was just fascinating to watch. So I have to say, I love this film. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much to the person who requested it. I hope you have enjoyed this review. I hope it's okay. And for anyone else watching, I hope you've enjoyed this. But that is my take on My Own Private Idaho. I think if I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it somewhere between like 4.5 to 5 stars. I think some scenes had a kind of weird theatricality about it, particularly in the street gang scenes. Again, I think that's just Gus Van Sant's quirky direction. But I think everything kind of fitted into place, even though there were some weird intersplicings of different techniques and cinematic sort of, I don't know, ideas in a way. But I think the core story, the subject matter, it's something that is really beautiful, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. So remember, you guys, you can always message me on my Tumblr or comment below suggesting movies for me to review. But that is my take on My Own Private Idaho. I hope you guys have enjoyed this review, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!